how China-US tensions are destroying global trade. Welcome to the YouTube channel, where we delve into the complex and interconnected world of international politics and its impact on global affairs. Today we'll be discussing one of the most pressing issues of our time, the tensions between China and the United States, and their implications for global trade. The relationship between China and the United States has been strained for quite some time now, with both countries engaging in a trade war that has escalated over the years. The two nations have accused each other of unfair trade practices, currency manipulation, and intellectual property theft, among other issues. The ongoing tensions have not only affected their own economies, but have also had a significant impact on the global economy. China and the United States are two of the largest economies in the world, and their economies are deeply intertwined. They rely heavily on each other for trade, investment, and technology. However, with the recent trade tensions, this codependency has been threatened, and it's now beginning to have a significant impact on global trade. The repercussions of the China-US tensions are being felt worldwide, with many countries caught in the middle of the ongoing trade war. The tariffs imposed by the two nations on each other's goods have disrupted global supply chains, causing a slowdown in global trade. This has led to a decline in investment and a slowdown in economic growth, affecting both developed and developing nations. As the two nations continue to engage in a tit-for-tat trade war, the global economy is likely to face further challenges. The ongoing tensions between the two nations have the potential to destabilize the global economy and cause long-term damage to international trade. The China-US tensions are a major geopolitical issue that cannot be ignored. The repercussions of this trade war are being felt around the world, and it's crucial to understand the complexities of this issue to mitigate its impact. Join us as we continue to explore the latest developments in this ongoing conflict and their implications for the global economy. And while doing so, please hit the subscribe button and like the video. And now, on we go. The history of China and the US being codependent on each other economically. The history of China-US economic relations can be traced back to the 1970s, when the US began to normalize relations with China after decades of hostility. This move was driven in part by the desire to counter the influence of the Soviet Union, which was seen as a threat to US interests. As part of this effort, the US government encouraged American businesses to invest in China, and trade relations between the two countries began to grow. However, it was not until the 1990s that China began to emerge as a major economic power. This was driven by a series of economic reforms that opened up the country to foreign investment and trade, and led to a period of rapid economic growth. As China's economy grew, so did its trade relationship with the US. By the early 2000s, the two countries had become each other's largest trading partners, with China exporting goods such as electronics and clothing to the US, and the US exporting goods such as soybeans and aircraft to China. This codependence has had both positive and negative consequences for both countries. On the positive side, it has led to increased trade and investment, which has helped to drive economic growth in both countries. It has also allowed both countries to access goods and services that they might not have been able to afford otherwise. For example, American consumers benefit from access to affordable Chinese-made products, while Chinese consumers benefit from access to American-made products such as smartphones and cars. On the negative side, this codependence has also led to concerns about trade imbalances, intellectual property theft, and human rights abuses in China. Some critics argue that China's trade practices are unfair, as the country has been accused of dumping goods on foreign markets and artificially keeping its currency low to boost exports. There are also concerns about intellectual property theft, with Chinese companies accused of stealing US technology and trade secrets. In addition, human rights abuses in China, such as the treatment of ethnic minorities in Xinjiang, have led to calls for the US to take a stronger stance against China. The current state of the China-US economic relationship is complex, with tensions between the two countries running high in recent years. The Trump administration's trade war with China, which began in 2018, resulted in the imposition of tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of goods traded between the two countries. While the Biden administration has taken a less confrontational approach, Tensions remain high, with both countries continuing to accuse each other of unfair trade practices and human rights abuses. The US and China banking and property market crisis. The recent collapses of 3 US banks, Silvergate Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, and Signature Bank, have raised concerns about the stability of the U.S. banking system. Silvergate Bank, which had a focus on cryptocurrencies, announced on March 8th that it would wind down due to losses in its loan portfolio. 2 days later, Silicon Valley Bank experienced a bank run when it announced an attempt to raise capital, resulting in its collapse and seizure by regulators. Signature Bank, which frequently conducted business with cryptocurrency firms, was closed by regulators on March 12th, with systemic risks cited as the reason. These events mark the second and third largest bank failures in U.S. history, following only the 2008 collapse of Washington Mutual during the global financial crisis. Many are now wondering if other U.S. banks will suffer a similar fate, given the possibility of contagion and panic-induced withdrawals. Economist Peter Schiff has raised concerns about the U.S. banking system's vulnerability, pointing out that banks own long-term paper at extremely low interest rates and are unable to compete with short-term treasuries. The resulting mass withdrawals from depositors seeking higher yields could trigger a wave of bank failures. Meanwhile, the property market in China is also experiencing significant challenges, as new home prices have fallen for 16 straight months through December, and sales by the country's top 100 developers last year were only 60% of 2021 levels. Some Chinese banks are taking drastic measures. In cities such as Nanning, Hangzhou, Ningbo, and Beijing, banks have extended the upper age limit on mortgages to between 80 and 95, allowing people age 70 to take out loans with maturities of between 10 and 25 years. While these measures may provide temporary relief, the overall state of China's property market remains uncertain. The recent Senate bill that revokes China's preferential economic trade status with the United States, and the ripple effects on the global economy as well. 4 Republican senators, Tom Cotton, Ted Budd, Rick Scott, and J.D. Vance, have introduced the China Trade Relations Act to the U.S. Congress. The act seeks to terminate China's Permanent Normal Trade Relations status, PNTR, which China has enjoyed for 2 decades, allowing it preferential treatment in trade with the U.S. The senators argue that the PNTR status has exacerbated the loss of American manufacturing jobs and has been a catastrophic mistake. They assert that China does not deserve this privilege, as it is not a friend of the U.S. and has engaged in gross human rights violations and forced labor camps. The senators seek to hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable for their actions and protect American jobs. The act has been supported by Senator Josh Hawley, who will introduce the Ending Normal Trade Relations with China Act, which will require the U.S. to withdraw China's Most Favored Nation (MFN) trade status 2 years after the bill's enactment. The bill would allow the president to impose tariffs on all goods from China, including tariffs in excess of those described in the government's tariff schedule. Senator Hawley believes that revoking the sweetheart deal that was given to China 23 years ago and implementing strong tariffs will protect American workers and make the working class strong and independent as the U.S. faces new competition with China. The China Trade Relations Act, proposed by the 4 Republican senators, could have a significant ripple effect on the global economy. The following are possible scenarios. Global supply chains. China is a vital component of global supply chains, and any disruption in trade relations with China could impact industries worldwide. Many U.S. companies rely on China for sourcing raw materials and manufacturing products. If China retaliates against the U.S., it could cause a shortage of critical goods, causing disruptions in supply chains globally. Currency fluctuations. A breakdown in trade relations between the U.S. and China could cause fluctuations in currency markets. The Chinese currency, the yuan, is already under pressure due to trade tensions between the two countries. If the U.S. imposes tariffs on Chinese goods, it could lead to a further devaluation of the yuan, which could impact other currencies worldwide. Stock markets. The global stock markets are closely tied to U.S.-China relations, and any significant policy changes could impact investor sentiment. The trade war between the U.S. and China in 2019 caused significant market volatility, and a similar scenario could occur if the China Trade Relations Act is passed. Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to subscribe to the channel for more, and we'll see you next time.